Right. Hey, we're back in the podcast room or the music room or whatever room, the me screwing around with my action figures room. Anyway, we're back. Hadn't been able to use this for a little bit. I had it kind of all disarranged for some work that had to be done, and it still hasn't been done, but I just kind of decided that I was tired of doing these on my phone. Okay, so today I'm doing something a little different than what I normally do. I'm talking about an older pay-per-view. Elimination Chamber has me really pumped this year for all this stuff going on SmackDown, so it had me kind of wanting to go back and watch one that I had never watched before. So Elimination Chamber 2012 is what I ultimately ended up choosing. And that show opens with an Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship between CM Punk, Kofi Kingston, Chris Jericho, uh, Dolph Ziggler, and R-Truth. So weird to think about R-Truth being in a match like this. It's easy to forget that he was at one point in time taken halfway seriously, right? And R-Truth is a really cool in-ring performer. He's on my list of guys who maybe could do with having a little bit of a scenery change. I don't know if I mean going to Raw or maybe like going to NXT. I know that might sound strange. I don't really look at NXT as a fully developmental thing at this. I mean, it is developmental and it's good for having people who are kind of green with their mic work and stuff like that. But I don't think it can't be a home to more established wrestlers too. Guys like, I mean, because it already is when you think about it. Like Adam Cole is not a developmental talent. He just isn't. He's been wrestling everywhere and he's in NXT, right? So like I always think of R-Truth as being somebody who, I mean, maybe it's all elite, maybe it's going to Raw, maybe it's going to NXT, but he's somebody that could really benefit from a scenery change, right? I mean, that's at least that's what I think when I watch him. So it's weird to see that just 7 years ago he was in a match on the road to WrestleMania in a marquee match for the WWE Championship. Just, like I'd never seen this pay-per-view, but it just, that still was maybe like, I was so surprised when he came out. I was like, R-Truth. That's right. Like he hasn't always been a joke, right? So, and I often forget that he has the United States Championship right now, and I often forget that it's not his first time having that belt. Like he's done that before. I forget. Anyway, so the match begins. We know going into it that Chris Jericho previously, very similar to what's happening on SmackDown this coming Tuesday, they're having a 6-man match to determine who is coming into Elimination Chamber last. And they did the same thing on Raw before Elimination Chamber in 2012. And Chris Jericho won that match. And Chris Jericho earned the right to come into the Elimination Chamber last. So we know that. So we're counting down the people who are going to be, as they're coming in. And so the people who are actually starting off in the ring first are CM Punk and Kofi Kingston. And that's a very intriguing matchup for a lot of reasons. And when they open, it does not disappoint. Kofi, he throws Punk onto the chamber floor, and then Punk catapults Kofi off of Chris Jericho's chamber pod. Dolph Ziggler comes in third, and to nobody's surprise, I would imagine, Kofi and Punk team up on Dolph, and it's all going very, very well for them. Dolph is absolutely worse for the wear. He's getting it really taken to him, right? But then Kofi and Punk decide to each climb to separate turnbuckles with Dolph standing in the middle, and they want to like kind of tandem splash on Dolph and or some sort of tandem top rope offense on a standing but dazed Dolph Ziggler. And Dolph Ziggler, right after they jump, like regains his like consciousness or whatever and moves out of the way, and Kofi and Punk collide, and it's a good collide. It's funny though because they showed a replay, so I kind of like watched a little bit closely as to what actually happened, because when they collided there was this really, really impressive slapping sound that didn't seem like the way they hit like it would have happened, right? Like just looking at it with like I mean, it was awesome, and I'm not trying to say, I mean, the slapping sound was great. It made it even better. But just the way they hit was kind of with their like chest and shoulders kind of hit. So I was like, what was that slapping sound? But then in the replay, you can see them both kind of slap each other like on the shoulders and or on the back or on the side as they're hitting, and that gives it this incredibly impressive thud, slap, and just really added a lot of drama to the moment. They were both just dazed on the ring floor at this point. And that's right around the time when R-Truth came into the match fourth, and he exploded into the match. He takes a big running kick from Dolph Ziggler at one point in time, but then he throws Dolph Ziggler over the ropes and onto the steel chamber floor, right? And then he himself, does one of like the springboard type move and like pulls himself up over the rope and launches himself into a bit of like a flip onto Ziggler, right? But he doesn't really hit. I mean, he hit Ziggler. I'm sure that like that didn't feel good. But Truth looks like he's a little bit worse for the wear, to be honest with you. He smacks off that ring floor or the chamber floor. He smacks off the chamber floor really hard. I mean, this is a brutal looking spot. Both men eventually roll back into the ring. And then Dolph, as he's kind of getting to his feet, doesn't realize that Truth has also gotten to his feet. Truth runs in with a really impressive scissor kick. I mean, this is one of the best R-Truth spots I've seen in a long time, just from the moment of his, I mean, I say I've seen in a long time. None of us have seen him as much of R-Truth as he probably deserves to be featured. Like they could make I like the silliness of his character. I loved him going around SmackDown and saying that he wanted to fight Carmella because that's how you get a title shot. Like that was so funny. But at the same time, like that's a few good jokes at the expense of like an athletic worker in the ring with a lot of charisma. I don't know, maybe we could be seeing more out of R-Truth, but either way, this is a great R-Truth spot from the moment he explodes into the match to the scissor kick on Dolph Ziggler. Unfortunately, directly after that scissor kick on Dolph Ziggler, while Truth was still on the ground, Punk hits this, oh wait, no, that's not how it happened. At some point in time, Truth gets up to the top rope. I don't know why he gets up there. I can't remember exactly how this happens, but the next major spot in the match is that Punk hits I was talking about a superplex somebody hit the other day on SmackDown that looked really good. This was also a really good looking superplex. Punk hits the superplex on Truth and gets on top of him for the pin. And I mean, that's it. That's all Truth had. He had about 3 minutes in the match, maybe. They were a really, really strong 3 minutes, though. Where we were provided with a lot of entertainment. Ultimately, though, he gets sent with a 3 count as the only thing he got for his trip to Milwaukee, right? CM Punk was a real kind of hometown favorite feel in this match, with the match being in Milwaukee and Punk being from Chicago, and they're very close. So it was a really nice little spot to see everybody cheer. I mean, Punk got a lot of cheering and a lot of booing at different points in time, but it was nice to see that. It makes me miss him. I really wish that Punk was still wrestling right now. I wish he was still in WWE. If he were to go to All Elite or something like that, it's not that I don't think that he would still be good in that. He would, but I just kind of wish that he was still in WWE, right? So, wrestling it all. And then Punk has a nice spot also after that, he kind of taunts Jericho a little bit in front of Jericho's chamber pod. And he hit Truth. That's what it was. He did the superplex. He taunted Jericho in front of Jericho's chamber pod. Then he climbed the top rope and hit Truth with an elbow drop and then pinned Truth. And that's how Truth was eliminated. So the next major thing that happens, Kofi Kingston comes back to life in a major way. He climbs the side. He jumps over the top rope and grabs the chain of the Elimination Chamber side, climbs up it, a few rungs, enough to be impressive. I was kind of like, man, this man isn't going to monkey bar across the cage, is he? But he didn't. But he did climb up far enough that it was truly impressive. And he then does an elbow drop on Dolph Ziggler. The whole thing, he looked like Spider-Man. Over the top rope, grab the cage, climb up a few, and then an elbow drop. It was fantastic. And right before that, he had a really impressive kick on CM Punk too. It was a really good looking, kind of MMA looking, almost like in its realism, spinning roundhouse kind of looking thing, right to Punk's it looked like it hit him in the mouth, but usually when it looks like that, they're kind of like this, and it actually hit him here, right? So, but it looks like it hits Punk right in the mouth. It's a very good looking spot. Then he immediately jumps over the rope, grabs the cage, climbs up a few rungs, and drops down on Dolph. I mean, this is fantastic stuff. I can only hope that Elimination Chamber delivers. I wish almost that there were more Elimination Chamber matches. Lately, the women have been better than the men in real life, but in now, but I'm not all that excited about some of the participants in the women's tag match. I'm excited there's a women's tag belt. I'm excited to be able to see this stuff. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to flip my feelings about this or something, because it still is a big thing and a good thing and a strong thing to me. But I almost wish that there was a third Elimination Chamber match for, the Intercontinental title or just something, another singles title in the Elimination Chamber. Even if it was the SmackDown Women's Championship, that would be great. You get the right competitors in there. Sometimes I'm not as excited about some of the people that are involved in the tag team stuff, like Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. I could care less, right? Who really cares about that? I think the Bellas are going to be in it. I could be wrong about that. I don't care about them either, though, if they are, I really don't. Either way, The Miz comes in fifth, and he comes out, he takes everyone out. He comes into the ring, he just takes out everybody. And he nearly pins Punk after a DDT. He nearly gets a skull-crushing finale a couple of times. He throws people off of chamber pods. It just... what else can you say about the dude? Throwing people off of chamber pods and into ring posts. It was his thing in this match. So Jericho comes in and almost immediately, after coming in, hits a lion salt on CM Punk. He goes into a pin. Punk kicks out. He hits a code breaker on Dolph immediately after that. So he came into the ring, he did the lion salt, he goes to pin Punk kicks out, everybody goes nuts, he turns right around, bam, hits the code breaker on Dolph Ziggler, and then pins Dolph. That's it. Dolph's out of this match. Dolph has basically, not that he hasn't had good spots in the match, but he almost served the same purpose and same role as R-Truth in the match at this point, and that was but stretched over time. So R-Truth got to look really good at times in his 3 minutes because it was condensed and we can remember a bunch of cool things that he did, right? But Dolph, all I really remember of Dolph, other than a counter, and Kofi and Punk colliding, all you really remember of Dolph is things that were done to him, right? Like Kofi climbing the side of the thing and doing the elbow drop, the code breaker that Jericho hits. All this stuff is just Dolph getting Dolphed. But it was 2012, right? And then that's kind of the crux with Dolph, isn't it? Like, we all know he's good. We all know he's real good at what he does in the ring. And he's good on the mic, too. And he's funny enough. And he doesn't seem to get a lot of respect, though. They seem to really like to use him in this punching bag sort of role. Involved with major matches, involved in major storylines, but not really destined to shine in them or to prevail in the end of any of them, which I think is kind of unfortunate. But this match was definitely like a prime example of that, of the way Dolph Ziggler is used in the WWE. So Dolph's out. Jericho hits the code breaker. Dolph's done. And then Punk puts Jericho over the rope onto the chamber floor. Jericho pokes Punk in the eye, and then he hides in a pod. Punk pressures, and he gets in there. And then Jericho slamming Punk's head and chest into the door of the chamber, and that just looks terribly violent. See what else happened here. The Miz went for a superplex on Kofi Kingston around this time, and Kofi blocked it, and Punk kind of comes in and teams up to powerbomb The Miz. All the while, Kofi is climbing to the top of the chamber pod now at this point and does a spot where he kind of drops in on both of them. So it's like Kofi was about to get superplexed by The Miz, and Punk kind of helps him out. And Punk's they've kind of helped each other out a few times in this match. We've seen a little bit of that. But Kofi's just well, I'm up at the top of the chamber pod. Forget Punk trying to help me. I'm just going to drop on him, right? So he gets to drop on both of them. It's a really cool spot. But Jericho comes back into the fight, and he eliminates Kofi in the walls of Jericho. He taps. And at this point in time, Kofi and Jericho were feuding, and so Jericho took this a little far. He wouldn't let Kofi out of the walls of Jericho, and then he kind of turned it into a modified. I mean, the walls of Jericho is similar to the Boston Crab either way, with the knee on the back of the head though being a difference, I guess. He kind of turned this into a full-on Boston Crab, and just wouldn't let it go. The refs are trying to tell him to let it go. He's not letting it go, right? And as a result, he also kind of follows Kofi out of the ring a little bit. He's just beating on him the whole way out of the ring. And this turns into a spot where Punk has a real opportunity. And so he kind of super kicks Jericho right in the face. Jericho goes through the chamber door. And not Superman comic book through the chamber door, but he gets hit and he kind of grabs onto the chamber door, and then the momentum of the chamber door swinging open swings him off of the door into some equipment ringside, and he kind of takes a nasty head hit off of what looks like a light box of some kind, and it doesn't look good. I feel for a moment genuinely concerned. Was this a goof up? I don't think it was a goof up that he went through the door, but him hitting his head on the way down, was that a goof up? And I'm getting a little concerned, and Punk even looks a little bit concerned for a second, but then it's all fake when The Miz shows up, right, and goes to put Punk in what is just a devastating looking, or would have been a devastating show-stopping finale. But Punk doesn't let that happen. Punk counters it. Punk puts The Miz up and they go to sleep. Bam. gets the 3 count, and he's the winner because Jericho is out cold. He's just out cold. And that's the end of it. And I don't want to break down like every match in the pay-per-view, but I do want to talk about the other Elimination Chamber match because it was really cool. You get some people in here that I really like to watch. You know what I mean? Like, I really, really enjoy watching Cody Rhodes. I don't get an opportunity to watch Cody Rhodes as much, and hopefully I will here in the future with All Elite. Hopefully just going to be on regular cable, right? Like, I've got my fingers crossed for like TNT or TBS or something because that'll probably be on Hulu. That'll probably be really easy to access, and that would be great. So we got, I'm going to break that down though in another video here. I'm trying to keep these around 20 minutes so they're a little bit easier to digest. I probably could have rattled on for 45 minutes about this whole pay-per-view easily because we're already in 21 minutes. I've only talked about one match. So, but that first Elimination Chamber match, I'm going to give it 4.25. We're going to say 4.25 stars. That was really excellent. I really enjoyed watching it. I found it to be highly entertaining. Yeah. All right. I'll see you guys soon.